So today's workshop is called Make Time. And it's a pretty simple name. I'm sure you guys have heard of it before. You've seen it before. The reason I called it Make Time is because two things. One, we need to make time for things. And two, because it's very important as creatives that we are designated uninterrupted make time to create the things that we need to create. So those are the two big takeaways for you today. The way I'm gonna go about it is I'm gonna share a little bit about me. I always like to start my workshops that way. Some of you might know me pretty well, and some of you are new to the community. And so I always like to give context so that you guys understand that everything that I share with you comes from personal experience. It's stuff that I've gone through, that I have felt, and that my brain, I cannot live in a world of inefficiency. I just like to make things simple, efficient, smart. And so I've developed this little framework for myself, and it works really well, and I want to share it with you guys. So I was born in Puerto Rico. My name is Carielis, and I go by Cari. If that's hard for you, you can say Carrie. That works for me too. I was born in Puerto Rico, but when I was 7, my parents migrated to Miami. And so these are kind of my cultural influences: Puerto Rico, Miami. And if you live in Miami, you get a little bit of the Cuba, because croquetas and cafecito, el cortadito, and all of those things. And so my world is full of color. It's very lively, and it's very diverse. So if you see some of my work, sometimes it can be a little chaotic and disruptive and bold. It's because this is where I'm from. I'm a church kid, and I grew up in church. Church is a big part of my life. And if you have been following me, or if you're new to the journey, you're going to see how much this influences my work. Not just my faith and my perspective of all of it, but also the context and the influence that it has had in my life. Honestly, the church is really where I understood my purpose in creativity. It's where creativity has helped me understand my faith. And so I'm a big advocate for church and church building and the local church and being part of a church. So I hope you're in church if you're not. Another thing that I like to share, because this comes in and out of just my way of thinking and the way that I like to encourage you. Insecurity is a big part of my fight. I think we all kind of carry a thing that's like our weakness, that if we don't keep it in check, it kind of can take over us. And for me, it's kind of been insecurity. And I think that's attached to identity. But it's always been like I've kind of disqualified myself from doing things. I don't know why. And so I've had to kind of fight that my whole life. And so a lot of my living now is just being courageous enough to kind of tell that insecure part of me, like, shut up, you know? But the way that kind of influenced how I kind of landed here, I actually have 2 degrees. And the reason I have 2 college degrees is because I disqualified myself from going to art school. So I literally did this whole circle thing for no reason because of insecurity. I went to FIU, university here in Miami, and I got a degree in psychology because I didn't think I was good enough to go to art school. Like, I did not know how to draw. I'm not an illustrator. I don't know, that's what I thought art school was. So I was like, why am I gonna go to art school and look stupid? So I went to FIU and I got a degree in psychology. And my senior year, I was about to graduate. I was like, there's no way that I do this. I cannot commit to this career. And so I kind of went through a little crisis, and that crisis kind of led me back to this little dream that I had. And it was about going to art school. And so I just kind of gave myself a chance, and I Googled, I think I looked up like art that you can do on a computer, something like that. Because I was pretty good at computers. Like I was kind of coding, and I don't know, I just understood them. So I was like, if I can make art with a computer, I'm good. And I found graphic design. That's how I found a Wikipedia, shout out Wikipedia, who's asking us for money, by the way, because they need to live another year. The end of year fundraising for Wikipedia. I found an article, and when I read the description, I was like, oh, I could do this. I found a school, which is the Art Institute here in Miami, and I applied, I got in, and I literally graduated from FIU. And then I went and I did another 2 years and I got a degree in graphic design. That's me on my portfolio review. And so sometimes you kind of let these things get in the way and they kind of delay you. I don't think it's wasted time. I think everything's on purpose. But it definitely was one of those little circle things that I did and I keep going back to check myself, to not be scared to do new things. And then the fourth thing that I want you guys to know about me is that I kind of live in this world of creative director and business owner. And the creative direction work that I do, it's based in graphic design. So that's my trade, that's what I do. But I'm in the phase of my life where I do a lot more direction than I do executing design, except if it's my business. If it's my business, I do both. But I find myself in this world where I'm juggling multiple things. I'm juggling different clients, different workspaces, different timelines and pace of doing things. And so I have really, over the course of my career, have had to define and really get disciplined around my schedule. I did want to show you guys a little bit of my work because you know why? Honestly, a pet peeve of mine is people, creatives that teach other creatives, but they don't have any proof of work. Like, you cannot teach me anything if you don't have a portfolio. Like, I need proof of concept. And so I always like to show you guys that everything that I teach is coming really from a person just like you who does graphic design, who has to figure out how to, make things over and over and over again. It also has timelines and it has clients and different things like that. So this is just some of the work that I have done for VOUS Church. Different things for events, exhibitions, conferences, book design. My design studio has also done some branding work. We're mostly known for branding work. Shout out to my husband. I do that with him. And we actually rebranded the City of Miami logo, which is pretty cool. And so you see it there with the mayor of Miami. Somebody got it tattooed, which is crazy, but they really did this. This is really my husband. It's a beautiful story. I think we have a podcast on it, but it's one of the things that our studio has done, and it's one of those things that we consider part of our legacy here in Miami, and something that we can show our kid and our family, like we did that, which is pretty cool. And then we just recently rebranded Bayfront Park here in Miami, which is one of the most popular parks in the city. If you ever come to Miami, it's probably one of the destinations you might find yourself by. It's next to Bayside, it's by the bay, the city's there, it's really beautiful. And so this is another thing that our studio has gotten to do, which is really incredible. So I show you guys this stuff because I kind of live in this world, this hybrid world of like church and non-church. And that's really where I like to be in. My husband and I, we like to be a bridge between the two things. But I really share that because the kind of work that I do is standard and professional enough that it works for whichever industry that I'm on. And so I think that's very important, especially in the church world. I do think that the church lacks a good deal of education. And so sometimes we cannot compete or we copy each other too much because we don't necessarily have the skill set to design the way the industry does, And so those are the things that I'm kind of trying to teach and fill the gaps for. And I'm trying to resource us better so that we can be the creatives we want to be and make beautiful things, which is honestly why I do any of this stuff. Another thing I just recently did was a coffee table book, which is kind of an insane project to do. I always like to do this kind of stuff because they're, one-offs and they're exciting, but they're so much work. Just the proofing process of it, the layout of it, coming up with the organization of the book, whatever, all that stuff. But this is what it looked like. Oh, this doesn't show you GIFs. Oh, that's a bummer. This is like a GIF of the front cover. So I made it metallic. I'm really into metals. I think they're beautiful. And it reflects in the light. And I thought that was pretty. And that's the back. And we did like an embossing feel. So rather than the letters being like punched in, they're punched out. So when you kind of touch them. You can feel them, which is kind of fun. And anyway, that's some of my work. And I just wanted to show you guys again to give you context and to let you guys know that what I am going to share with you comes from real life. It's tried and true, and it's things that I actually implement in my life to help me make things at a certain pace and to do so excellently. All right. So I hope that encouraged you and gave you some inspiration, a little bit of my story. But now I'm going to go ahead and get into our actual workshop. Okay. So the way it's going to be, I'm going to do 60 minutes. So until 2, I'll go ahead and teach. And then the last 30 minutes is Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, just write them down. And then at the end, I'll go ahead and I'll go through the chat and I'll answer your questions. If you want to come on stage, I can put you on stage. Just make sure you look cute. You know, some of you that work from home. All right. Now, today's outcome for you is to leave with a first draft of a weekly rhythm, okay? I'm not gonna stop, right? Because I wanna honor the time and I wanna give you guys the Q&A. But I definitely, by the end of today's workshop, in your journal, grab a piece of paper on your computer, have somewhere where you can take notes and start drafting the beginnings of a schedule. I'm gonna give you a workbook, and the workbook is basically gonna walk you step by step in company with the workshop that I'm teaching you now so that you can do this when we're done, okay? So that you can actually like turn the noise off, think, and do this thing. Now we're gonna focus on 2 things. It's gonna be your day themes and then your make day, all right? Make day, if you have been following me for a while, you probably have heard it from me. I'm a huge proponent of make day. And the reason is because you pay me, you hire me, you want me because I make things. So I need time to make. You know, like the expectation of hiring me, but then like not letting me do the work is insane. And so I'm definitely a proponent of make day. And then the day themes is basically the framework that I'm going to teach you today to be able to do all the things that you want to do. It's assigning a focus and a task to your days. So let's start here. Let's talk, oh, none of these gifts work. Well, I'm about to show you a bunch of gifts. And they're different things, but I'll walk you through this one. So this is time. I wanted to start here with time. I think it's important for you to realize that time is one of your most limited resources. You don't get it back. And I know that you guys know that, but sometimes we know things, like we know that they're true, but they don't actually like sit in our soul. Like they don't make it all the way. And so we don't actually think about it the way we should be thinking about it. And so today I start here because I want you to really think about your time. I know that some of you guys, we're all in different trajectories in our life. I am 35 years old and I definitely look at time a lot different than when I was 22. You know, like I see 40 around the corner. I'm like freaking out, oh my God, like, which is stupid, you know, because we're still young. I still believe that, you know, but you look at time a lot more differently. And so the big thing about implementing the weekly schedule is that you have to have that awareness and you have to have the understanding that you need discipline in your life to be able to do the things that you want to do, especially with time, because you won't get it back. And I know we don't really feel that way now, but you know, I think when we get older and we have less energy and it's harder for us to do certain things, we might look back and be like, man, I remember when I used to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And so just remember, time is your most limited resource. Now then there's this other thing called passion, right? Graphic design is my passion. That is very true for me. I don't know if all of you are graphic designers. Maybe you are. Let me know if there's any other kinds of like maybe videographers or web designers on here. I don't know. But graphic design is really the thing that I love to do. And so what ends up happening is this is all I want to do with my time. Literally, this is how much I really enjoy doing what I do, that I don't mind spending a lot of my time making things. What happens then is reality. You cannot live in a reality where all you ever do is the thing that you just want to do. You can definitely create a reality where you do more of it, but you can't create a reality where that's all you do. Because what I've learned is, even when you get to do more of the thing that you want to do, there's a bunch of other things that then you have to like start doing in order to be able to support the thing that you want to do. So, and for the example of freelance or going out on your own, a lot of us, we start our own businesses because we want to control our time. We want to control our schedule, our intake and our output. We want to be able to do the things that we want to do. And we don't really think about what that actually means. And the fact that when you take in all the clients and all the projects that you want to do, it actually now means that you need to manage the client and then manage the projects and then do all of the accounting, the invoicing. Oh, and then you need to like make the thing and present the thing. And the more clients you have, or the more of anything that you have, then the more chaotic. And sometimes you find yourself living in this world where the thing that you actually set out to do and that you really want to do is you're not doing too much of it. And I'm going to share different examples in my life of times where this has happened and the way that I have tried to adjust it so that I'm able to do more of it, or at least do so without feeling chaotic in my life. So basically what happens is tension. We end up feeling like we're being pulled in a bunch of different ways. Do any of you guys feel that right now or have felt that in your life? Where you're kind of like, oh my God, I need to make the thing, but this person needs me and this other, I gotta be there. And you're just like, I can't do all of it. And it kind of leaves you in this headspace of like, maybe you shut down, maybe you paralyze, maybe you blow up. Some of us have different reactions. I'm either like, I'll shut down, like I'll get overwhelmed and I need to walk away. Or I'll have like a very emotional reaction. Those are one of the two things that you kind of get from me. But this is like not the world I want to live in. This is not the reality I want to have. I want to be able to set out and do the things that I want to do. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be hard or challenging. I just don't want to feel chaotic, like I'm being pulled in a bunch of different directions and I never get anything done. When you end a day and you just feel like you didn't do anything, that's awful. Like we want to minimize that. We don't want to have a bunch of those days. And so everything that I'm kind of describing happened in this chair. So like I mentioned, my husband, Angel, and I, we have a design studio. We launched our studio in 2015. We got married in 2016, January. And then like 3 months later, I joined him. And so we were kind of crazy. Like we were just newlyweds and we kind of just started our own business and there we were. Nothing to lose. And so we kind of got a little design studio. It was in a closet, literally. And then we decked it out. Like we put turf in that thing. We had some guy paint our logo on the wall. It was awesome. And then we started getting clients. And I started learning how to manage clients, how to do proposals and quoting the right way. That's another thing. Quoting, pricing your work, learning how to do all that stuff. But in this chair where you see the arrow there, what happened was we moved into a bigger space. This was an 1,800 square foot warehouse. And it was like having a whole other house. We had to pay electricity. We had to like buy toilet paper for the bathroom and clean the bathroom. Like it was a whole thing, internet, all of it. And so what started happening was we needed to pay ourselves, right? And then we also needed to pay the overhead. And we started needing to take in more clients. And so the way we would filter clients started declining. We would just kind of say yes to anything that came because we needed to kind of just keep this thing afloat. And so I just started feeling overwhelmed between getting more clients, then walking them through the process, doing the work, pitching the work, and it's just my husband and I. And I just started looking stuff up, like, how do I get out of this? Because I can't live in this world where I'm trying to like invoice, but then I have to design. So I'm going to do the invoice really quick and then I'm going to design, you know? When you start scaling, that gets harder. And so thankfully, the internet before artificial intelligence, someone out there wrote an article and it's called One Googler's Take on Managing Your Time. And this article literally transformed like my week. It transformed the way I thought about time, my work, energy, my body. Like up to this point, I think I would just work like 12-hour days. I would do whatever I had to do to kind of, you know, just work. And then I kind of started realizing like the limitations of all of that. And the fact that, you know, your well-being, your physical well-being is so important and so attached to your ability to create. And so the whole concept of this article is that the maker is different. Now, I'm not trying to say that people that don't create things are less than us. I'm not saying that. I think everybody is creative, and creativity at the end of the day is problem solving. And so we're all problem solving in different ways and applying creativity in different ways. What I am saying though is that sometimes the kind of work that we do requires like a deep dive into something, because it's usually deep creative problem solving work, something that you kind of have to dig into something and like put it on you, like the inspiration, and then go out and do it. It's different than like solving a math problem, you know? And so we need time to make, to create, and to build. But before we do any of that, we need time to think. Imagine that, right? So we're fighting just to make time to make things. Are you fighting to have time to think about what you're gonna make? And so this really revolutionized it for me. And I'm gonna share it with you because it's still out there. Let me see. And you guys can read this article. And it'll change you. And he links the book. I read the book, you know, he links the book with the science behind his thesis, and it was wonderful. And so that was the inception of me discovering how to like change my work week, okay? In this article, he mentions this weekly rhythm or wave, that our days have a certain energy level. And if you notice, it kind of on Monday, it starts really low, and then it kind of peaks, and then it kind of dips again. And so this is science, which he linked a different book. If you go to the article, you'll find the chart, the graph. He links the authors of the book. But basically, it's that most of us have the same energy patterns, and we experience those same energy patterns over the course of the week. And so not only am I now realizing that I need to like protect my make time, I'm also learning that there are energy like inputs and outputs to my ability to create, and that I should be paying attention to them. It's kind of like I didn't need to force myself to do certain things on a day when I'm not even starting with the amount of energy that I would have if I would assign it on a different day, right? And so that really helped me understand the energy aspects of creating and allocating that deep work to a specific set of days. So I'm going to walk you through the days, and he references it in his article, and the book breaks it down a little bit more. So I'm kind of taking the book and then I'm showing it, I'm bullet pointing it, I don't know if that's a word, for you guys so that you understand the wave of the day, and so that you understand what you should be doing that day. And this is going to become the foundation for how you're going to schedule your week, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and remove the article. How do I make this? Okay, there. All right, so Monday, you're starting down here, low. You're below the threshold on Monday. And so it's best for admin work, organizing, planning, and setting goals. So the science just says that you're coming out of the weekend and you're still kind of warming up to your work week. And so because of that, you should not schedule anything that's already demanding on you on that day. It should be an admin day and a day for low activity tasks. For Tuesday, you see here, the wave starts going up. So Tuesday is a peak day. And they recommend that you do your deep work that day. It's great for high focus work, hard problems, strategy, writing, any kind of creative work. So coming out of the weekend, you're kind of ramping up, and then you make it. Like, okay, work week is here. So anything that needs your most undivided attention should be assigned to this day. Now, if you notice Wednesday, it maintains the peak. And so they also recommend that on Wednesday, you do deep focus work. Some of the things that they recommend was strategy, design, problem solving. I personally don't really define too much between Tuesday and Wednesday, but I definitely make that my make day. And I'll share a little bit more how I do that. Thursday, you start peaking, you start going down, not peaking down, you start going down. And so they recommend that your collaboration and your decisions happen on Thursday. Any of your meetings, any of your collaboration, or anything that needs consensus or agreement should happen on Thursdays, okay? And then on Friday, it's done, weekend. That's where you have your lowest energy. And so they recommend that you leave that for open-ended work. Anything that's like future, vision, brainstorming, follow-ups, anything like that. So if you kind of look at it, your week is bookended by these two low energy points, and the middle of it is your peak. And so that's kind of how you want to look at your week and structure all of your tasks. Is this clear so far? Are you guys tracking? Let me know, please, in the chat. Amazing. Alyssa, you get A+ for participation. Hi, Yessie. Amazing. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. All right. So after reading this article, I had two epiphanies. Epiphany is a fancy word for insight, wisdom, revelation. I learned it in my AP class in 10th grade. I'll never forget, so stupid. Epiphany. The first thing, I became aware of my energy levels and my output ability. I shared that earlier, but that was one of the biggest takeaways for me, that I don't need to do all of the things every day. I don't need to answer emails every day. I don't need to be in meetings every day. That was very freeing for me, because the way that I was setting up my week, I was just trying to fit whatever came up. Oh, they need to meet. Okay, let's, and you end up kind of being reactive when you do things like that. And I'm definitely someone that likes to have as much control as I can. I like to be prepared. I like to know what's coming up, because it sets me up for a win. And so when I realized this, that was really good for me. Now, epiphany number 2 that I want to share with you is the fact that I needed uninterrupted make time. That the work that I did required me to have undivided, is that a word? That's not a word. Uninterrupted, not disruptive, is that how you say it? Sorry guys, I'm from Miami and my brain is half Spanish, half English. Uninterrupted make time. And that was like a big deal for me. It was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And again, it goes back to like this kind of conundrum, like living in the tension of they pay you to be creative, but then you end up being in a workplace where like it's hard to do that. Whether you work for someone or you work for yourself, it's the same thing. If you work for yourself, everything's on you. If you work for someone, priorities might shift. They might want you in meetings. You might need to do a report one day, whatever the case may be based on your workplace. But the big thing for me was I needed to protect my ability to make things. So those were my two takeaways. Once I kind of realized all of that, I started writing our weekly schedule. And so I'm a big journaler. I always have journals and I write everything down. This is actually, I still have it, the journal when I wrote this down. So it was August 2018. And you can see my notes from the stuff I was learning. And then this was our schedule. So what I ended up doing was Monday, I just followed what they told me to do. I didn't change the wheel. So that's what I'm going to teach you. And I'll show you some of the adjustments that I've made over the years, but just copy paste and run with it. So Monday, back then, remember I had a studio and that was my full-time thing. I would prepare for the week. So I would look at my calendar, who do I need to meet with, meetings, whatever. And big one, I would review our projects. I would go through our Trello board and just see where everything was at and kind of get oriented with our projects. I would schedule any meetings and then I would just do any low demand projects or tasks. So if it was creative, it was low demand, and edit to something like a small edit, change the text, whatever, nothing deep. Then Tuesday and Wednesday, we just made those our make days. So my husband and I, that was make day. That was our days to make stuff. Thursday, I scheduled meetings. I would also do low demand tasks and I would schedule presentations. So because I just spent Tuesday and Wednesday making stuff, I had something to present on Thursday. So what this weekly schedule actually does for you is that it sets you up to present work on a weekly basis, which is really great. You're able to show progress on a weekly basis because you've designated uninterrupted make time. And then Friday, we just made it like an in-house day. We would do little projects that we wanted to do for the studio, any relationship building, and future planning. My husband and I are really into the future. And so we love thinking about the future and imagining and all that stuff. So that is important to us. So we allocated that for Friday. So that was the first iteration of my weekly schedule. Then that same year, I started working part-time at VOUS Church, which is crazy. I don't know why I do these things sometimes, but God graces you for all these things, right? But I was running my studio and then I started working part-time for this church. And I did it for 6 months. And as you can imagine, the schedule begins to adjust. And then at the end of that year, I decided that I would go full-time and work for VOUS, and I would not do the studio. I kind of got burned out by the studio. I didn't have I didn't know how to do it. Like I didn't have the maturity and the know-how to run a business, a creative business. And it kind of just, I was done with the client. I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm out. So I told my husband and, we agreed to take that step, and I just walked away from 5 years. I didn't do any client work for 5 years. But when I started at VOUS, I was just a graphic designer. So I kind of went from this person of like having all these things to do to just be doing graphic design. But the schedule and the pace was different. And so I took what I learned and I made a schedule for VOUS Church for me. Now, everything I teach you guys works for in-house and it works for your own business. And it does so because I live in both worlds. And when I make things up for myself, they work for both environments. You might have to edit it a little bit, but the framework, the principles of the framework, they work. And so what I did, based on the new expectation of my day-to-day, I made me a different schedule. And this is a carousel that I think I posted in 2018 or 2019, I don't remember. But this, you can show that I'm the article that changed my life. And then this was my schedule back then. So the main task that I had at VOUS was I had to oversee a team and I had to make things, right? And so I kind of set myself up to do those things. And so the work week at VOUS is Sunday through Thursday. And so it's a little different, and that's kind of how I set it up. And it helped me focus, and it helped me accomplish a lot based on the transition to my schedule. Eventually, I became creative director, and I was like, no more meetings, please. Because I literally went from just being at my desk to never being at my desk. And it's funny, you know, when you start climbing up in leadership, you take on more management, and you end up doing less of the thing that they originally hired for, the thing that you're really good at. And so I found myself again in that tension of, man, I need to be with this team. Like, I need to guide them and direct them. And so VOUS has its own rhythm, its own way of thinking. I'm not telling you that you need to change the organization. I'm telling you to advocate for your week and to implement something and to ask for something as simple as a make day. So at VOUS Church, I couldn't change the organization, the meeting schedules, and all of that. But when I got to being a graphic designer, or when I got to being the creative director, I could designate my make day, and I would just vocalize to my oversight, whoever my supervisor was, hey, I would just like to be uninterrupted this day. When I was the creative director, I had more authority. And so I just asked my fellow directors to not schedule meetings for the creative department on Tuesdays. And it was honored, and it was great. And we would work on things, but we would also do like little exercises where we would like brainstorm and get inspiration and things like that. And so it's important to always have time and space to create. Now, I find myself in this world. I'm running a design studio. I left my full-time creative director role at VOUS Church, but I'm a remote art director. So I still work there, but I'm remote, and I just art direct projects. So I have that going on. And then I'm building Hazy. I want to teach you. I love to teach you guys, and I want to resource the community. And so I have these three things going on. And so more than ever, I need to be disciplined in my schedule. And so what I'm teaching you is really the framework that I use to be able to live in all of these different worlds and to be able to handle all of the different things that come up with it. Like, just think about, I always reference Virgil. Virgil's like a big inspiration for me. But think about these guys that become creative directors of whatever. So he was the creative director of Louis Vuitton, but he also had Off-White. And he also was like a DJ. Like, how do people do those things? And how do they go in and out of worlds? And really, it's just assigning your attention to things. There's more to, obviously, scalability and teams and things like that. But it's really your ability to focus on something for a designated amount of time, and then you move on to the next thing. That kind of going in and out of stuff at the same time, like within the same hour, is very heavy and energy taxing on you and your ability to create. So now we're gonna get into the workbook. I'm gonna share that with you. Before we do that, so that I can breathe, tell me, put it in the chat, what does your week feel like right now? Is it crazy? Is it chaotic? Ben told me it was chill. Okay, Alyssa says it's chaos. Generally chaotic. Okay, I feel you guys. Depends on the week. Awesome. All right, let's get into it. There you go. Whiplash is a great word, Zach. Thank you for sharing that. That's a very great metaphor for how it feels to go between different things, for sure. And that's definitely one of those things that I try to minimize as much as possible so I can be healthy. I think I was talking about the energy. I think part of it is being healthy, and creating well is being healthy. It's being well, you know? And so, yeah, hopefully, Zach, you can take this back, and it'll help you a whole lot. So let me go ahead and share this handout with you. I think you guys, okay, yeah. Here. All right, so the workbook walks you through the whole thing. It gives you a summary of what I just taught, and then it gives you very practical things to do. So that's what I'm gonna walk you through. The first thing when you are making your schedule is that you want to take inventory of your time and who you are at the present moment and who you want to become, okay? So your schedule has to match your season. It's not something that you're making like out of fantasy. It has to be grounded in reality, okay? We're gonna do that in two ways. The first way is we're going to assess our time. We really have to think about our time. And the main thing is we have to think about how much time do I actually have to work? Because if that's the thing that you're prioritizing, then you have to be realistic with it. The second thing is define who you want to become. I think this is very important. Like, this wasn't in that original article. This is stuff that I have added to my own way of thinking because it's important to define that. Because the way that you apply yourself over time is going to determine who you become. And so if you have an idea of who you want to become, then that's definitely how it should define what you do in your day to day. And so it's not just being reactive and allowing things to come our way. It's being intentional about, hey, this is who I want to be. This is who I want to become. These are the things that I want to commit to. Are they going to be hard, challenging, frustrating? Of course, you can't eliminate that. But you definitely want to be intentional about what you're putting your time to. So I'm going to give you a few prompts of how to do these things, okay? So the first one, assessing your time. This is how I do it. List 3 to 5 current roles. So I extend my time outside, or my roles outside of work. I don't just think about my work roles. I think about my life in totality. So I'm a parent. That's a big deal when it comes to time. I'm a wife. I'm an employee. I work for VOUS Church. I'm also a business owner. And I like to learn things. So those are kind of the roles and the different hats that I take on. List your non-negotiables. I think non-negotiables are important because, again, application over time creates who you want to become. What are those non-negotiables? Who are you trying to become? What's your value system? For me, it's my faith, my family, my work. I like to work, so that's in there. That's a non-negotiable for me. And my health, because I've realized that if I'm not well, I can't make things. I can't be present. I can't be a good wife, etc. And then the last one is write how many hours of realistic, usable time you have more days. So for me, after I had my son Avon, I work a 35-hour week. I do not work a 40-hour week. I don't have time for it. I start my day at 9. I end my day around 3:30 because I pick him up from school at 4. And so I've already made the decision that I'm going to have him in school so that I can work. That's hard enough for me. And so the other decision is, how long do you want to have him in school? Well, I don't want to have him in there for 8 hours. So we try to do anywhere 6 to 7 hours. And so that cuts back my work week. Those are decisions and non-negotiables and things that I've committed to. And so how do I run my studio, work at VOUS, and then build Hazy on a 35-hour week? That's the math. The next thing to take inventory is, who do you want to become? So here are your prompts. This is in your workbook. Define 2 to 3 areas that need focus in this season. What do you care about? Your relationships, your career, your health, your professional goal or growth. 1 to 2 habits that would support that. So for me, one of the things that I'm really in right now is I realize I need to increase my capacity. And there are certain seasons in my life where I sense that who I am at the moment isn't going to take me to what I see. And so one of the things I'm doing is I'm trying to learn more things that I don't know about: business, entrepreneurship, leadership. And so I started walking and listening to podcasts and audiobooks. And that is a habit that I started implementing now that I want to carry into 2026. Because I want to learn more and I want to have fun doing it, and it's fun. Try it. And so those are the things that I'm implementing. And then boundaries, very important. Define at least one boundary that you need. No Slack after X amount of time, or no meetings before 10 a.m. Whatever that may be, you definitely need at least one boundary to make this work. Now, after kind of reviewing this, what's one focus area or habit that you are thinking of committing to? Something that just came to mind really quickly as I'm walking you through this stuff. Now, step 2. So the first one was take inventory. So you're going to look at your life, you're going to look at your time, all the things that you have going on. You're going to be realistic about it, and then you're going to look at the future. Who do you want to become? And that's going to set the framework or the bookends for how you're going to structure your week, okay? Now, step 2 is now you're going to take the science and you're going to actually use the science to support your week, okay? So we're going to reference that wave, that weekly wave, and we're going to do 2 things. Define the day themes and define your make day blocks. The big thing here is that you're going to go from asking, where do I squeeze this in? That's a very reactive way of looking at your life, to what is the day for? So I woke up today. What is the day for? Not, I woke up today, things are coming your way. Where do I squeeze all these things in? I understand that all of you guys have different workspaces, and some things are non-negotiables. Control what you can, advocate for yourself, have conversations around these things, but that's basically the goal. So we're going to design your week. I'm going to walk you through mine quickly so you have a frame of reference, and then I'm going to teach you about this idea of maker versus manager. One of the key things that you need to learn in your life is the difference between a maker and a manager. All of us are makers. Some of us become managers depending on the context. So if you work in-house for someone, you might be in a leadership role. So you kind of have this maker-manager thing going on. If you go on in your own, you have the same thing going on. You have to distinguish between the two. You have to be aware of the two, and you have to distinguish when you're doing each. When am I being a maker? When am I being a manager? It's very important that you do that. If you're running your own business, one of the key things you need to learn is, are you working on your business or are you working in your business? It's just a simple change of a letter. It's a big difference. If you're working in your business, you're a maker, you're in it. If you're working on it, you're a manager, you're above it. Very important that you understand the difference between those 2 things, okay? So I live in this world of maker and manager. This is how I do my week. It starts with Sunday. I start my weeks there. That's church day, my Sabbath, I just rest. Monday is my admin day. I just do emails. I hate admin day. I hate emails and I hate meetings. But I gotta do them. So I do that. Monday, non-negotiable. Tuesday is my make day. Wednesday is my make day. Now, because I live in this world between working for people, having clients, and doing my own projects, I kind of designate if it's a client day or if it's a my day. And I kind of flip-flop between Tuesday and Wednesday depending on the week, but those are my make days. Thursday is my meeting day. Non-negotiable for whoever it is. If I finish my meetings early, which I don't go to a lot of meetings these days because, again, I'm creating who I want to become, then I make it a make day, and that makes me really happy. That's a good week. Friday is kind of my future week. I tend to write, maybe do curriculum for my emails or my classes. And if I kind of finish that early, then I'll make it a make day. But Thursday and Friday, Friday especially, if I make it a make day, it's a make day for my work, the things that I want to do. Thursday, if I do end up making it a make day after my meetings, it might be a client make day if I need to finish a deadline. That's kind of how I structure that. And then Saturday is family and friends. So in your workbook, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go through your week and you're going to assign a focus and a theme. And then you're going to define what you're actually going to be doing those days, okay? Based on our wave. So when we're done with our class, I want you guys to take time and actually write this down, piece of paper or Google Sheet, however you want to do it, but commit to it, right? So start, write it down. And then the last thing is commit. I always like to end here. I know it's obvious, right? Like we know we got to commit to things to do them, but we really like show up to workshops and we really pay money and we really do the thing and we read the book and then we don't do it. So I always like to end this way because I'm telling you from personal experience, I have implemented this and it has literally transformed my life. And it's why I can do so many different things in a 35-hour work week. So the biggest thing is you have to commit to it, okay? You have to think about what you're doing and then be able to actually implement it. So I have some recommendations here for you, things that work for me. So start small. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. I do this. I get excited and I'm like big chomp. Like I started walking, I told you guys, and then I was like, oh, the tracker. So then I download the app and I'm like, 2,000 steps, great. 2,000 steps was like easy for me. So I was like, I should do 10,000 steps. And then it's like, chill, Kari, relax. Like, let's do 4,000, you know? So like you can commit to it. So just start small. It doesn't have to be a whole like evolution of your week. If you can just, the non-negotiable is your make day. If you can just start with your make day, that's good. You're making progress. Check in weekly. Like, does it work for you? I'm not saying, is it hard? Did you forget? I'm not saying any of that. That's part of life. I'm saying, does it work for you? Is it supporting you the way that you want it to support you? Check in weekly and adjust it if you need to. And then stay flexible. You know, things happen. I can get very rigid sometimes. You know, if it's like my admin day and my client's calling me, I'm like, oh my gosh, shut up. Like, I'm trying to write these emails or whatever. I've had to learn to be more flexible because life is happening and you can only control so many things at once. It's okay if you schedule a meeting on a Tuesday. If it's the only time you guys can figure out a meeting, just get back on track. You know, just don't make that the norm. And then the last thing is you have to set boundaries. This will not work if you don't set the boundaries. If you start saying yes to more things, then it's not going to work. You know, like if you're like, oh, it's meeting Thursday and you had 3 meetings on your schedule and then you kind of overdid it with the meeting because you said yes, even though it was your meeting day, like it doesn't work. It needs to support you. So you need to set your boundaries. You need to be okay right now with setting the boundary. And then I'm a very reflective person. I write stuff down. I like to get better. So I have some reflection questions there for you that you can go through if you would like. I'm going to get into the Q&A soon, so hopefully you guys have your questions ready. And just a reminder for you guys as I'm finishing up, the framework is meant to support you, not restrict you. So don't have that point of view and don't feel like you're being restricted by writing things down. Understand that it's going to support you. Now, don't also take on the mentality of like, I cannot change this thing. You know, it's meant to support you. You're a human that changes over time. And so it should evolve with you. My schedule has changed over time. Like the schedule I just went through is different from my 2018 schedule. And it might change now that I'm sensing that I need to grow in capacity a little bit for 2026. And so as you change and evolve, your schedule should. But you should, whenever you're making edits to your schedule, you just need to stick with the wave and have your make day. And that's it, folks. This was supposed to be me and you going like this. Fist bumping is how you say it. So fist bump, okay? We did it. And we just walked through an hour of content. And I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that it was simple and practical. And I really hope that you go into 2026 feeling like you're gonna conquer it and also ending it like, man, I smashed that thing. Like I actually was able to do the things that I wanted to do because I stuck to it in my daily rhythm. And so thank you guys for being here, for participating. 3 things I want to leave you with. Protect your make time. It's important. You're a creator, a creative, a maker. And so you should protect it. Hold your boundary You have to have boundaries in order for this stuff to work. And then run the schedule. Run it, like design it, and then run it, like apply it. Remember that the way you apply yourself every day is who you end up becoming, okay? Pero now, let's go ahead and get into the Q&A. And we have 27 minutes or so. So if you guys have questions, you can put it in the chat. And then if you want, I can bring you up on stage. I'll wait a few minutes. If you guys still have questions, then that's great. But I always like to allocate time for you guys to ask your specific questions. So I'll just give it a minute. What if you run a team and also create for your church and they demand a lot from me, like almost all week? How do you schedule that in your week? Do you want to come on stage or do you want me to just answer you? Have your cameras and mic on. Hi. How are you? Okay, so what kind of demand? Is it more like maker demand or management demand? Okay, it's both. Yeah. So the way that I navigate that, there's a lot of tension in that space when you're getting that kind of demand. So the way that I navigate it is I designate my days. I promise this is how I do it. So sometimes I don't have control over the demand. I just need to figure out where I'm going to slot it in the week. And so depending on the amount of demand, I might negotiate. This is something that I would do as a manager. So the negotiation is stuff like this. Can the deadline be extended for this other thing? Because the one thing we need to understand is there's a give and take. Oh, there's always a give and take. So if I'm going to take on this added demand, the stuff that's already here, can I move it over? Is it non-negotiable? If it's non-negotiable, what else can I control? Okay, if you're in a bunch of meetings or there's stuff going on that prevents you from making, eliminate that. So I would be like, I'm not gonna attend these meetings this week. And I would send somebody else, or I would ask somebody in the meeting to take notes and just let me put it on Basecamp, which is like our project manager. Put your notes on Basecamp and then I'll review it when I can get to it. So that's how I manage those things. There's always a give and take. Sometimes certain things can kind of just go past the deadline or whatever, and you might have to have certain conversations. But I think as long as you do your best and you have those open conversations and you allocate your time and you control what you can, that's what's helped me. So if it's more demand on the maker side, it means you need to be in a computer. How can you get on the computer? Do you got to get out of a meeting? I don't know, whatever the context looks like. Do you need notes? Do you need the AI? There's AI bots that take notes on meetings. Have the meeting recorded, whatever, like record the audio. Find another way that you can get the information that doesn't require you being in the room, you know? So that's what helps me. Is that helpful?
Yes, that helps, yes, because it's a lot, and it's like like what you said, I shut down and I want to cry and I go in my hole. So it's a lot, especially with all these events that we try to do and stuff like that. And I run the social media as well. So that is like always cutting it. So
yeah, do your best with it. I know sometimes you're getting asked for more than is sometimes feasible or easy, and those are other conversations to be had. But when it comes to your ability to work what you can is what I do, you know. So you have however many work hours you have in a day, work as much as you can, and whatever spills over, have a conversation about it, you know. There's always the give and take. Okay, let's see. Yes, see, if you finish a designated task on a specific day, do you do something else? Yes, I do. So if I finish admin day earlier, I make it a make day. So like for me, make day is a thing. I'm a maker. I'm like, that's what I do. And so I make it a make day. Even if it's like for Hazy and I have to make a website or I have to like make a workbook or whatever, even if it's a little bit of, or even like an automation, I consider that a make day because it's inputting or depositing into the things I really care about that bring me a lot of joy. And so as many make days as I can get in the week, the better for me. But it depends on what's going on, deadlines that I have, commitments that I have. But if I finish early, I definitely make it a make day. That's what works for me. Was that helpful, Yessie? Let me know. Benjamin, how do you manage excellence in a fast-paced environment? Well, I think excellence comes down to expectation and preference. I think expectation in any kind of relationship or collaboration is something that needs to be agreed upon. So if you're working for someone and you said yes to the job, you agreed to the expectation. So it's not like you don't have a say. Did you not know the expectation? Maybe that's a possibility. You might, like that happened to me at VOUS Church, I'll be honest. I took the job and then I was bamboozled. I was like, what in the world? I had no idea and no one told me in my interview. And I just kind of found out about things as I went on. And I had to adjust. But every time I adjusted, I agreed to the expectation. So I think when it comes to that, it's have a combo around expectation. And then when it comes to, once you agree on the expectation, if you're still not hitting the excellence part of it, then it might be a preference thing. And what I mean, or like an opinion thing. And I think sometimes, for example, we do this thing at VOUS where it's one of our values. Excellence is our spirit. And everything that we do should be done in excellence. Now, excellence is one of those words that it's like multifaceted. Are you doing it in excellence, meaning out of like a pure heart? Like, are you giving it your best? Are you being honest and authentic and full of integrity? I think that's being excellent. Now, when it comes to skill set and output and expectation, that is a preference or an expectation. So sometimes sometimes what you need to do is have a conversation. Hey, I realize that when we turn in work, more times than not, we're going into these feedback loops. Can we talk about it? What is it about what we're turning in that you don't like? Or, how can we present work that gets approved quicker? You kind of have to maybe have a one-on-one conversation around that stuff. Sometimes the conversation is the negotiation. Hey, can we be okay with the 80%? Because we have these other things and we all agree that this one thing needs 100%. So I can't give 100% to three things at the same time. And so what I have found that works for me is just having ongoing conversations, and sometimes you're live. And sometimes you're annoyed and frustrated as you're having the conversation. Like sometimes that's just what it is. But the big things for me have always been expectation and the preference around excellence, how you guys define that and what that means for you. And then the last thing, I do think it's skill. I do think that the better that you get at your job, the quicker you are at coming up with solutions, the quicker you are at knowing what's going to work and what's not going to work. So sometimes it's just an experience thing. Sometimes it's doing it over and over and over again. I'm really quick with ideas now. I wasn't when I first started. I've been doing it for 13 years. So I hope that helps you, Benjamin. I know that, the church world can sometimes have a reputation of being very fast paced. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. But I also do think that we can have conversations, honest conversations around it, but also kind of look at ourselves, like reflect, how can I improve? How can I get better? And, I've done that over times. I don't think you're an outlier. When I first started at VOUS Church, one, I had to get used to the pace very fast. Two, more work than me could do. Three, the preference and the taste level, different from my work is very colorful and stuff. The work for VOUS is very sophisticated, and I had to learn those preferences over time. I got really good at it now, but it took me a little bit. So nothing about what you're experiencing is unordinary. I think a lot of us experience it. It's just a matter of just having the combo and setting the expectation. I hope that helps. Okay, Risha, I feel like I always pronounce your name wrong, and I'm really sorry. I'm curious about the client communication around your time. Email response time. Can I hop on stage? Yes, you can.
Yeah. So I run a business, and yeah, we manage like as far as like multiple people, multiple clients, multiple things. And so this year, one, I've implemented a make day. That's Tuesday for me, and that's been really good. Just based on your posts, that was really good and very helpful. But like now, I know you were saying that you don't do a lot of emails throughout the week, or that's what I was gathering. And so like when I'm uh the clients email day in, day out. They're just like this and that and that. And so I'm just curious, like, how do you communicate that up front as far as like, I only answer emails on Monday or something like that? Like, how do you set the expectation with your clients?
You can do it either way. You can have, depending on how many emails you take, this is what I would recommend. If you get a bunch of emails and you have the kind of clients that are like, we need it now, like I need a response, like I have whatever, like very intense, like very vocal clients, then I would maybe say that up front. Hey, the communication structure for our agency, if you have questions, we'll review those on Mondays and Fridays or whatever, Or you can make the adjustment based on your client. You can make your client first, and then set your structure based on that, knowing that the kind of client that you kind of take does that. So maybe you can allocate 10 minutes of your workday. I would do it time-based if that's the case, if you were going to do more days. Because at the end of the day, you want to have your day have a theme, right? What I would do though is like on your make day is like non-negotiable. Don't do the email. So if you need to do emails more than one day, I would do them Monday. I would do them Thursday, Friday. That's 3 days of the week. I think that's pretty good. Like you're bookending it with the beginning of the week and the end of the week. Now, I do think there are moments when, you might be launching something. And so the communication is like, and that's an exception. And I think that's okay. Because I do think we have those moments in our work. I know you do a lot of web work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you'll have a launch and you might be like having to be on that launch because you're looking at the tech. Does everything work? Is the back end okay? Like whatever. And so that might require more attention from you than a week where you're just designing the website. And so I just think maybe in that case, maybe you schedule your launches around the same time. So then it's not chaotic and all, That's kind of what I would do. I would try to control what I can. But I think if you bookend the calls, beginning of the week, end of the week, maybe Wednesday if you don't like Thursday, I feel like that should be more enough for the client. And if they're not cool with that, then maybe that's a combo you can have with them, on a one-on-one type of basis. But that's what I would do.
Yeah. No, that's great and very helpful. Especially just bookending it at the end and beginning. I think that's where I'm kind of getting now going into 2026 of like, if it's not these days, it'll have to be the next week. And that's just putting in those boundaries, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And so if you need Monday and Friday, like next week is 3 days from today, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not crazy. It's not like me, I do it once a week. Yeah, I might look at my schedule, but I really like my non-negotiable is like Monday. If I didn't get to it, I need to get to it on Monday. But I'm not stressing. Nobody's coming to me about it. So it's fine for me. In your case, if it's different, then I also communicate with clients in different ways. Like Trello is so that might be a communication that I'm doing on a make day, but it's not necessarily emails. And my brain is like admin work, like annoying stuff. So
see, if I could eliminate emails from my job, that would be the best. That's my goal in life.
The way the world is going, we'll see.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Michelle, how and where do you carve out time solely for learning and getting better at your craft? Michelle, that is a hard one for me in this season of my life because I don't have a lot of alone time. So I wake up and my kid is awake. And if I want to wake up before my kid, I have to wake up at 5 in the morning, which is crazy, which I might do actually. But he's up, and when he's up, he's going. I want this, I want that, I'm hungry, da, da, da. Then he goes to school, so we get him ready for school. Then I work, And then I pick up and it's my kid again. He's hungry, he wants to watch TV, he wants to go outside. And then by the time we put him down, I'll tell myself, I'm like, I'm gonna work or I'm gonna read a book. And sometimes I'm really tired and I don't. And so finding time to learn, I do it in the rhythm I'm already at. I don't try to carve out more time because I don't have a lot of it. If I were to carve out more time, it would mean that I'm waking up earlier. And so what I do was like, I started walking, like I told you, I just walk around my neighborhood. So like I'll take 10, 15 minutes in the morning before I work. I'll try to do it 3 times a day. So before I start working, and then my lunch, during my lunch, that's a break, I do another 15 minutes. And then in the evening with my son and my husband, we walk. And sometimes after my son goes to bed, I might take a walk and I'm listening to a podcast or a book. I watch a lot of YouTube. So the little bit of downtime that I have, I'm watching literally, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not watching funny stuff. I'm watching like podcasts. And my husband's like, why are you watching this at 9 o'clock? Like, I don't know. But I just kind of try to fit it in as I can. Reading for me is hard because the time that I would have to sit down and open a book, it's like 9 and I'm tired. So the Audible and the podcasts are easier for me. I just fit it into the season that I'm in, and I wish I could learn more, but it's what I can fit in. So that's kind of how I make it work. Jonathan, how do you manage attention in BC? That's my Miami. Busy seasons with a lot of last minute decisions or changes to media elements for Sunday service. Okay. You're talking about last minute changes or changes to media elements. So the way that I mitigated it or minimized it is I have a very specific creative process that I go through. And I've taught this before. I've shared it out on Instagram. You might be familiar with it. It's 3 steps. I do it for every project. Before I move on from a step, I get an approval. So step 1 is discovery, meaning I'm getting oriented with the project. What's the problem? What do you guys need? What's the deadline? All that stuff. And then I'm putting mood boards together based on the problem that you have and the need that you have. I get an approval. You have to approve that mood board. I approve it, you approve it. We both got to start off of it. Then we move on to step 2. Step 2 is where you start making stuff. You don't make stuff in step 1. You make stuff in step 2. Creative exploration. That's where you're being concepting. You start designing, you open your Illustrator, whatever, you start making stuff. When you make something based off the mood board, you pitch it, you got to get an approval. Good, right? You approved it. Great. Then you move on to step 3. Step 3 is implementation, the execution of all of the deliverables. So they approved the idea. We got the slide, like the look for the Christmas Eve service. Now we need to make slides and banners and print and social media. That's step 3. When step 3 finishes, depending on the leadership structure of your organization, it might need to get approved by certain people, different levels of approval, depending on what it is. But that's what I follow every step. Now, if at any moment when I get to step 2 and I'm making stuff and I'm pitching it to you and you change your mind, I go back, hey, you approved. This is what you approved. What happened? Where did we disconnect? Usually, what that does is you distribute the responsibility. It's not just me. It's not me coming up with my ideas. It's us together coming up with the ideas and agreeing to them every step of the way. And so that gives you room for negotiation. If they're like, I changed my mind. I don't know what to tell you. I changed my mind. Okay, well, that means that now we're delayed. You can have those conversations. But that helped me a lot because I would bring him into the process. I'm talking about Pastor Rich, Pastor DC, like whoever I'm working with, I would bring them into the process. I would get their approvals. And then by the time I got to the end of it, like we were good to go. My revision loop was very small at VOUS Church. The other thing that I would recommend is sometimes it has to do with the skill sets in the team and the expectation. Like Benjamin asked a question about excellence. Sometimes those are just conversations you need to have. Like you can follow the creative process, and they might agree, but the expectation is not there. Sometimes, us creatives, we work with people that don't understand what we're doing and what it takes. And sometimes it requires us to teach them and to walk them through the process of doing those things. But that's how I would do it. And then the last thing I would recommend to you, Jonathan, is write things down. Okay, so there were 3 changes here and it delayed this. Data is better than your feelings when you have a conversation. If you're going to take up a conversation with your oversight, come with data. They care about data, not so much feelings. So try that and let me know how it goes. Okay, Benjamin, I think that is the last question. What are good tips for managing multiple projects at the same time? What I mentioned, the creative process. The more that you can create repeatable systems and repeatable ways of working, the better, because you're adding predictability to your workflow. Whether you work for someone or you work on your own business, predictability is one of the things that's going to help you the most. What I mean by that is, like, if you're working on your own, predictability is income. Do I know how much I'm going to make in June 2026? The more you know that, the better your business is. Predictability and the creative department at your church is what projects are coming up? Who's on the team? Is it a busy season? Is it a slow season? Knowing those kinds of things. So the more that you can embed predictability into it and repetitive processes, the better. Then you also need to be really good at project managing. So find one that works for you. I don't like all of them. VOUS Church is on Basecamp. I hate Basecamp. I like to project manage, like I'm visual, right? So I like things like Asana or Trello, where I can, or like a Google Sheet, honestly, where I can see things from like a bird's eye view. I like to look at things from scale. And so the way I project manage is the same way I execute projects, with the creative process. So literally my boards sometimes for project managing, I'll be like, step 1, step 2, step 3. What projects are in step 1? What projects are in step 2? What projects are in step 3? Because when I'm managing people, I know where the energy of the team is going, And so you got to know how to project manage. If you guys don't have a project manager or what, I don't know the context of the whole thing, but definitely have to have that in place. So repeatable systems, predictability, good project management. I hope that helps. Yeah, see, I don't know where Angel is. He left. Maybe, he's probably fulfilling Gaiad orders and going to the post office to drop them off. Mike, yours is going to be the last question, so we can honor our time. What advice would you give leaders who feel pressured to say yes to everything? Well, I think that for me, to be honest, is not so hard to do because of my personality. So I think that's where it starts. I'm pretty vocal, I'm pretty direct, and if something feels off or I'm challenged by something or I feel like I need to say something, I tend to do so. And so I think if you're feeling that way, it's probably a personality thing where maybe you need to do a review on it. Sometimes it can be a heart thing. I'm going to be fully honest. At VOUS Church, sometimes it's hard. How do you say no to Pastor Rich? I think there's an honor system. I think there's ways of saying no. I think sometimes you can't say no. And so you say yes, But I definitely do think if you're saying yes more than no, and there's conflict in you, then look at why you're saying yes. Like, is it personality? Is it a heart thing? Are you trying to please, like people pleasing? Do that kind of inventory first. And then from there, like make your decisions on, what kinds of things you're going to start saying no to more often. And, I just said that to you and that's very easy for me to say. It's harder to apply. But I definitely think it's a confidence thing, a courage thing. And you can't, it's easy to say no to some people and so much harder to other people. And I just think you need to be aware of who you're saying more yes to and why. And yeah, take inventory. And maybe you can't say no. I can't say no to Pastor Rich. I've learned ways of like negotiating, you know, and saying things. And we've built a trust over time where he hears me out. But sometimes, you know, it is what it is. So that's my advice to you, Mike. And I hope that was helpful. Friends, thank you for being here. How was it? Like, did you guys learn? Did you take something away? Do you feel like it, you know, was it practical? Amazing. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for participating. Alyssa, again, you win an A+ on the chat. Thank you for being here. And I hope 2026 is incredible for you guys. And something I want to share with you is hard is not bad. And it's a very simple phrase, but really a lot of times in my life, I've let hard get in the way of things. And sometimes I quit too early or I step back too early because it feels hard. And sometimes I'll disqualify myself because it's hard. And I just want to remind you, hard is not the determining factor. The determining factor is your purpose, what you see, who you feel God has called you to be. And so don't let that knock you. Implement this stuff, and little by little, you'll become who you were created to be. So thank you guys, and I'll see you around. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thanks for being here.